Hello, everyone. I am solo today because Tim and Lennon are both out at social media marketing world right now. And so I thought that I would share with you guys kind of like some of the areas. I'm one of the YouTube strategists on the video creators team here, by the way. Hello. I feel like I should open it the way that Tim does. Hello, creators. Welcome back to another episode. Hi, Chickenlandia. Good to see you again, Dahlia. That's Dahlia. So today we are going to be going over some time management strategies to help you guys kind of streamline your workflow because as creators, usually a lot of us are juggling a lot of different balls in our court. And so hopefully these time management strategies will help you to kind of balance your life with your work, with your video creation and everything in between, because all of that really does play a big part in how well our videos come out, like the kind of quality of videos that we can make for our audience. It's such a key component. So that's what I'm going to be going over because I've actually spent the whole past year. So this whole past year, I really started working from home full time and doing all the YouTube strategy and stuff like that, working with clients one-on-one, helping them grow their channels. And this is where I have really honed in over the past year of how can I manage my schedule the best way possible, because it is not easy and it takes a lot of trial and error and really figuring out what works for you. Because if anybody out there has watched any videos on like time management or anything like that, you're like, oh, that sounds really great in theory, but whenever I try to do it, everything just falls apart. And so that's kind of, I want to give you guys some tips and things that will help you kind of streamline your workflow, whether it's in your own work life or actually creating videos and everything in between. So, yeah, I am going to be kind of moderating everything myself this time. So I'll be kind of making sure that I'm pulling questions from the chat here and there to keep you guys, to keep us on track and making sure that I'm not missing any of your questions. But make sure if I do miss your question, just kind of like repost it and I'll be sure to get to it. So, because I am solo today. All right. So, one of the first things, whenever it comes to managing your time so that you can create better videos and really just have a really good work life balance, is track your time like no other. So, I'm going to go over several different points with you guys on this because there's a difference between having an intentional workflow and then having a reactive workflow. And what I mean by reactive workflow is reactive means that you kind of get into reactive is what most creators and most people just in their work life balance kind of fall into. It's where, oh, a notification comes in or an email comes in and we immediately respond to it. And that's kind of how we live our everyday life of just like notifications on our phones, notifications via email, work notifications. It's just kind of like waiting for things to come to us and constantly responding to it. And so what I want to do is, especially as creators where your time is so valuable because you have videos to make outside of work and then you have kids to take care of and everything, is I want to help you kind of turn that workflow from a reactive workflow into an intentional workflow where you are spending the time the way that you want to spend your time, and you're being the most effective in that time that you are spending. So one of the number one things that will help you do that is just to get started. If you've never tried any time management strategies and you're like, gosh, I just don't, no matter what I do, I just cannot get a handle on this, just start tracking your time. Just on your calendar, on your Google Calendar, on your phone, whatever. If you just want to write it down or put little events, that's how I started doing it, is I just literally put little events in my Google Calendar. And so what that will help you do is it will give you a clear picture of exactly how you are spending your time right now. And just do it honestly. Like if you watch 5 hours of Netflix, put it on the calendar. Just be honest with yourself. We got to get honest, raw, real. And because we just need to get a really clear picture. Google Calendar for the win. Yes, Sarah, that is correct. Google Calendar is my whole life. Oh, History Treehouse says, I know my problem. I start too many things. I love everything I do, though. entrepreneur. I do freelance captioning work and have history related business plus trying to start my channel. Yes, that is a lot. And you are actually in the situation that I want to speak to, because that's the situation that a lot of creators are facing, where we kind of have all of these different balls. We got kids, we got work, we got home, we got to clean our house at some point and do the laundry, right? And shower. And so finding time for all of that is really hard. So you're exactly kind of who I want to speak to in this. So first thing, like I said, track your time, like no other, and do this for a few weeks to a month, maybe, just to be really honest and get an idea of how you're actually spending your time, because this will either make you realize that I have more time than I thought I did, and I just haven't been utilizing it the best way that I thought that I was, or it will help you realize that maybe you're trying to do too much and you need to learn how to calibrate in some areas. So if you have kids, for example, maybe you are taking care of them every single night, and it's really hard to take care of your kids every night and edit a video every other night or something like that, or once a week. So maybe you decide, okay, I need to free up one night. Can I ask my mom to babysit my kids for a night, or hire a babysitter so that I can get all of my videos edited, or something like that? It just allows you to get a really, really clear picture of what you really the beast that you're facing within your own life, because everybody's time management and the tasks that they need to take care of and everything in between is going to be different. So you need to get a clear picture of what's going on in your own life before you can actually start to attack that and start to change your workflow. So that's the big thing. Track your time, get an idea. And then once you start to have an idea of how these how your workflow is currently going between your personal life and your professional life and your creator life, right? Now we want to start listing out everything that we need to get done. So we have an idea of what we're getting done right now or not getting done. So let's start to list out every single thing that we need to get done. And this can just be a just brain dump. Just start to brain dump on pen and paper, hands to keyboard, whatever you prefer. Just literally get everything out of your head. And this is really, really effective if you can do it every morning, especially if you just kind of, or the night before you start, at the end of the workday. You can do it either the night before you start your next day, or you can do it the morning of that day, just to kind of brain dump. Just get all the crap out of your head. Just get it out onto paper and let's start to sort it out. Because once you start to get it onto paper, you can start to separate it. And this is the next little trick. Start to separate it into 4 different columns. So the first column is going to be urgent and important. So the things that are the most time pressing and of utmost importance. And everybody's definition of important is going to be a little bit different, because some of us have kids. I don't have kids, I got cats. So my priorities are going to be a little bit different. But so you need to define what is most important to you. But one thing that I want you to consider whenever it comes to defining what's important is, especially within your YouTube channel, the things that you want to focus on that you feel are going to move the needle the most. So maybe some of you are working on your video structure right now, and you're really trying to get that audience retention up. And so that is going to be really, really important to you. So that's where you're going to focus a lot of your time of, do I need to get more footage in order to create a better video structure? Do I just need to spend more time editing in order to create a better video structure? Or do I need to spend more time scripting? We have to figure out what things are important to us in terms of what needle we're really focusing on moving. And so we have the first column, which is urgent and important. So if it's time pressing and it's of importance to you, then it goes in that column. And then number 2, the second column is urgent and not important. So it's time pressing. Maybe it's a bill. You need to pay your electricity. That's also important, technically. But in terms of long-term goals, you know what I'm saying? So maybe this is something that is urgent, but it's not important in the sense of it's not going to move us closer to our goals, but it still needs to get done. So we have first column, urgent and important. Second column, urgent and not important. And then third column is going to be not urgent, not important. So these are the things that not urgent, but important. So this is something that is important. We need to work on it, but it is not really time pressing at all. So that's probably where that like working on the video structure would fall into, if that's something that you're working on, because that's something that's going to take time to implement. And so it's maybe urgent in a sense because it's really important to you, but it's not really urgent because if you don't fix your video structure tomorrow, like nothing, the electricity is not going to get shut off or something like that. You know what I'm saying? And so that's where we have to start to separate, like, what are maybe long-term things, what are something that needs to happen right now, and everything in between. And then the fourth column is the obvious. It's the not urgent and the not important. So once you start to break down all of your tasks, because remember before we just brain dumped, we just got everything out of our head, and now we're kind of separating it so that we can really see what is going to be the most urgent and important, and then what's maybe not urgent and but still important, and what is urgent and not important. Like those are the three columns, because all the things that are going to fall under the not urgent and not important, you might be surprised. Like whenever you start to line all of those up, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I've been filling my time with all these things that are not urgent and not important. And I need to focus more of my time on things that are actually going to move me towards my goal of getting my audience retention up, of getting more subscribers, of spending more time with my kids, or whatever it is. So break it down into those four columns once you've gotten everything out of your head. So then I want to make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat here. How can I be more motivated to make videos? Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like it's different for everyone else, but let me come back to that. So let's wrap up a few of the time management tips here, and then we'll kind of come back to that. So the next thing is start to organize. So now that we have those four columns, we're going to start to organize our to-do list accordingly. Because remember, our goal here is to slowly move ourselves into an intentional workflow and not a reactive workflow of where we're just kind of working on whatever's in front of us or whatever comes to our head at the time. We want to make sure that we've laid everything out so that we as creators can have peace of mind in the things that we are attacking in our personal lives, professional lives, creator lives, everything in between. So, because I feel like that's where a lot of the stress and the tension comes from, is it's not just that I need to get my audience retention up, or I really want to get more subscribers. It's a lot of that in between, like a lot of the stress that's behind that is that we feel like we don't have the time that we need to actually put our efforts towards this thing that we want, or we feel like if we do start to put our efforts towards this thing, then other things are going to slip through the cracks. And so that's where a lot of the franticness and the stress comes from. And so once we start to really lay everything out and we really feel like we have a hold on the things that we are attacking and where we're putting our priorities and everything in between, that is where we will start to lose that frantic sense of state of mind, and we'll start to get into this really focused workflow, because we have peace of mind that everything that we've laid out is everything that we need to get done, and so we can kind of take rest in that. So I feel like that's a really, really big thing, especially for anybody who is juggling a lot of different balls in their court. So now that you've started to organize your to-do list accordingly, you want to start to bring it to your calendar. So now that we have everything in the four different columns, we're going to bring it to the calendar and actually start to block it off on our time. So for those of you, this might actually change the way that you work. If you work like a 9 to 5, you could actually still use your Google Calendar during your 9 to 5, depending on the kind of job that you work. And you can list out like your work tasks there. Is there a project that you want to be working towards over time that you want to make sure, like, I've blocked off a certain amount of time for reactive tasks, like answering emails, messages, stuff like that, and then blocked off a certain amount of time for intentional tasks, things that I know are going to move the needle long term within my workspace. Like, that's something that you can, this is totally something you can implement just within your work life as well. But for those of you who maybe are working a 9 to 5 and are creators on the side, like being a YouTuber is your side hustle and that's what you want to make your thing, then this is where it's really, really going to come in handy, because you can just kind of block off your work area, like, okay, I know that I'm at work between 9 to 5, and then whatever happens in there happens in there. It's up to you whether you want to pull these strategies into that or not. But then outside of that, you can start to block off, okay, I know that I need to cook dinner during this time. And then after that, I need to put my kids to bed during this time. And then I will usually have like an hour or something like that to maybe start writing a script or start editing a video. And maybe you can't do everything in completion, but maybe you can start to like chip off at some of these things that where you really want to move that needle. And so as you've laid out everything between the urgent and important, urgent and not important, not urgent but important, this is where you want to start to pull those tasks into your calendar accordingly. So before you start throwing all of that on there, though, I want you to actually batch all of the tasks that are the most similar. So say that you have 3 videos that you need to edit, and instead of like trying to write a script and then film it and then edit it and then get it up, I want you to maybe put all of your filming as close together as possible. So this evening I'm going to film 3 videos, if your videos are the kinds of videos that you could film all in one evening. So maybe we film 3 videos this one evening, and then the next evening or 2 evenings later we edit for 2 hours or 3 hours. Like, you want to get yourself, the whole point, this is called calendar blocking, where you batch similar tasks together because you want to get your brain into a space where it can get hyper focused, because it's staying in the same, you're kind of staying in the same mind space. Sounded like I said MySpace, mind space. So what that does is it actually, did you know that if you switch from task to task to task, it can actually, you can lose IQ points? Did you know that? Like, guys, we only got so many of them, so let's try to preserve that as much as possible and stay in one space. So whenever it comes to batching your tasks together of, okay, I'm going to do all my meal prep this one night, I'm going to prep all the kids' lunches this one evening or something like that, or this one weekend, and that way all those tasks are getting done, and you can just kind of like boom, 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 get them out and get them taken care of, and you're in like this hyper focused space because you're focusing on one thing. Then that's the space that I want to get you in, so that you can stay in that flow. Because then whenever you switch gears, now this is going to be subjective, because there are some people who do better if they switch gears frequently. So I'm not saying that like if you have 10 videos to edit them all in one day, because that's not realistic. What I am saying is that if you're going to spend time editing, try to do it for as long as you can personally do it before you start to drive yourself crazy. Because I'm definitely the type of person where I can probably edit for about 5 hours before I go stir crazy and I need to like really switch to a different task. So if you're like that, then totally give yourself the grace to do that. But what I'm saying is edit for that 5 hours so that you can stay in that brain space. And then if your mind is going to need to take a switch, then switch to something else and focus on something else for the rest of the day, or as many similar tasks as you can at a time, so that you stay in the most efficient space in your head as possible. Like, we really, really, really want to get that hyper focus. So we have kind of gone over the majority of the things here. So the first steps, and I want you guys to know that like this is trial and error. Whenever it comes to managing your time well, like I said, remember, I spent like the whole past year at just figuring out this whole time management thing. That was actually my goal at the beginning of last year, and I like really, really stuck to it. Is I am going to figure out how to manage my time to the best of my abilities. And I started listening to a lot of people who are really good at time management, and I would implement their strategies, and then some parts of their strategies would fall off, and then some of them would stick, and everything in between. And so I don't want you to think that like, just because I don't want you to think that there's just one way to do it, because you're going to try things and then that thing is not going to work for you. But I also don't want you to give up on it so quickly just because you didn't try it long enough. Like, give it enough time to actually, for you to actually figure it out. Because especially whenever we're trying to wrap our mind around getting out of a reactive workflow and into an intentional workflow, it's really, really easy for us to just kind of give up because we're just like, I don't understand this concept. Like, how do I do this? It seems like things always slip through the cracks, and that is going to take time. Like, I felt like that for a good, I don't know, maybe 3 to 6 months of me just trying to really figure this out before I really started to feel like I was getting a hold on this. Because whenever it comes to good planning, here's the key. What doesn't make a good planner is somebody who like planned everything out so perfectly, and the plan was so perfect that everything went according to plan, because that never happens. It really doesn't. So it's not about the perfect planning. Really what it is the best planners and the people who are the most useful with this time, they know how to adjust when things don't go according to plan. For my example, I'm working on a client report, I'm pulling their analytics and stuff like that. And I batched 2 hours to do that, and it ends up taking 3 hours. Like, we have to be able to adjust in a way that actually allows us to still get everything done. But that's why we've laid everything out of what is urgent and important, what is important but not urgent, and everything. Like, those categories will help us to see when things don't go according to plan, something takes longer, then we can adjust because we know what tasks are important, what tasks are going to move the needle, what's urgent, and everything in between. So I want you guys to keep that in mind, that it's going to be a trial and error process, but it's definitely like, once you start to find your flow, it is so worth it because you get so much more peace of mind. But whenever you are doing this, so we're calendar blocking, we're categorizing our tasks and everything in between, we have to stick to the plan as much as possible, which I know what I just said kind of sounded the opposite of that. But what's really, really easy, especially for people who aren't used to planning at all, it's so easy to just be like, oh, well, I could do that later, or, well, I could do this right now because I feel like doing this. But if there's nothing that's actually pushing your plan or making your plan go in different directions, it is going to require self-discipline for you to just stick to the plan. Because I remember whenever I was implementing all of this, I just kept telling myself, I was like, if I just stick to the plan, everything that I want to get done will get done. And that's what really helped me kind of get through those times when I was like feeling really burnt out, or I was just tired, or I felt like I was going all day, because there's seasons for everything. Like, you're going to have seasons of grind, and you're going to have seasons where you can kind of lax a little bit, but we have to just kind of tell ourselves, as we're implementing these things, like, I am going to do everything in my ability to stick to this plan, unless something like a client report or something like that takes longer, because that's out of our control. But whatever is within our control, we have to have self-discipline to actually stick to the plan. So one thing that really, really helps with this, Lily Tree said, oh, discipline. Yeah, that might be my problem. You and all of us, seriously. I'm definitely not saying that all of this all of a sudden makes everything easy, but it has removed an immense amount of stress from my life. Like, especially whenever it comes to creating videos, if I'm creating, courses for video creators or whatever, it is incredibly important for me to stay on task, because if I don't stay on task, then it affects a lot of different people's workflow, and the video editor and the producer and stuff like that. And it's pretty easy for me to stay on tasks whenever it comes to like client reports and stuff like that, just pulling analytics, but because those have due dates on them. But I think where we all start to get trapped is like, when something doesn't have a due date on it, like, it's pretty easy just to be like, I could do that later. I could eat my lunch right now and then just do that later. And I think that's where we have to kind of have that switch in our brain where, yeah, it's simple, but not easy. C React said, I struggle with it all the time. That's so true. It's simple, but it's not easy. So that's where I had to have that switch in my brain where I would just be like, I just have to, if I stick to the plan, it's almost like you're telling yourself, if I stick to the plan, my dreams will come true. in a way. Like if I stick to the plan, everything that I want to get done will get done. And I won't have to worry like that stress that I constantly put myself in because I procrastinate or because I let something else get in the way. Then that's where that stress and that frantic feeling starts to come in is we let other things get in the way or distract us or procrastinate or whatever. So a big thing that can actually help to keep you from getting distracted. I don't know if any, but let me know if any of you guys have actually tried this because it is like my life rule now. And that is I turn every time I come in and I don't need to be within my work messages or within my personal messages, like my texts and stuff like that. I will actually turn my phone and my computer on Do Not Disturb. Has anybody ever tried that? Because it is like my life rule. Because I have my favorites on my phone. Don't get me wrong. I have my favorites on my phone. So my husband, my mom, and a few close family members are on there. So in case of an emergency, like they can get through to me. But other than that, no text messages. I don't get notifications for text messages or calls or anything because honestly, most of the day my phone is on Do Not Disturb. I know that sounds crazy, but I don't really browse social media. Like I get on social media obviously because it's my job, but I don't browse social media because it just my time is so valuable to me now. Ever since I've implemented all of these time management strategies, I've realized how incredibly valuable my time is and how incredibly valuable it is for me to stay in just like a streamlined workflow of hyper focus. And a big key component of that is not letting other notifications come in to pull me away from the task that I am currently working on. Welcome to Chickenlandia said, I need to stop browsing social media. Yes, I agree. It has literally changed my life. I look at my whole life differently after I stopped spending so much time browsing social media. I still get on it. I'll check messages, notifications, and things. But all of my notifications, like the little badge notifications, I don't get any Facebook badge notifications, no Instagram badge notifications or anything like that, because I want to make sure that I am focusing my time and energy on the things that I know that I want and need to focus my time and energy on, and that nothing's pulling me away from that. So another thing that really helps with this, because this is a big thing that I see whenever people are trying to like implement time management strategies, is that okay, so we have a to-do list. We just worked really hard on our to-do list, right? Because we're separating it into categories and order of importance and urgency and everything like that. So how do we actually keep our to-do list from being a distraction in and of itself? Because I don't know about you guys, but I'll go to pull up my task management software, which I use monday.com. It is a paid software. There's not a free version of it. You can maybe get like 1 month free. I do highly recommend it because it is absolutely incredible, and just you can set it up however you want. It's amazing, but it is designed for teams, even though I use it for personal use. It's just so awesome that I don't mind paying for it. So whenever it comes to capturing tasks, so say that you're in the middle of video editing, you're in like this really good workflow, you're like in the groove of video editing, and then you're like, oh crap, I need to email my boss about that one thing. That's when you need to have a system for, instead of popping over and emailing your boss about that thing, assuming that it doesn't have to be done immediately, like it's not super emergency urgent, before you pop over to your email and start getting distracted by email and doing that thing really quick, one thing that I do is it's so simple. I just keep a pile of Post-it notes next to me, and I'll just write it down and stick it on my computer or stick it in my desk drawer or something like that. But I'll just have a pile of those so that I don't actually pull up my to-do list, because if I pull up my to-do list, then I'll start seeing everything on my to-do list and I will get distracted and start to want to work on those things that are on my to-do list. So just come up with a system. Whatever works for you is going to be different for everyone. But as you're in your workflow, make sure that you have a system for actually capturing tasks that that come to your mind as you are working, because you don't want to get pulled out of like your workflow, your state of mind, that hyper focus that you're in. You want to be able to stay in it. So just write it down. That way, it's captured and you don't have to worry or stress or be anxious over it, and just put it to the side. You can always add it to your to-do list whenever you're done with your task, but that way, you won't forget. So those are all of kind of my biggest tips, the biggest takeaways that I've had during this past year of just really focusing on how can I better manage my time? How can I actually like move the needle forward in my life and really focus my time on the things that I feel are important to me and are important for my business and are important for video creators and everything in between. Like, it makes a big, big difference. So, some Burgess Taylor said, I use a bullet journal. I have not used a bullet journal. For me, bullet journaling, I feel this is going to sound really kind of ironic, but I feel like I don't have the time to bullet journal because I know that you have to like create them and everything like that. And I watch those videos and I'm like, man, they look super relaxing, but like it feels like it would be really, really relaxing if I did go to do it, but I need something that's just already laid out for me so that I can just start filling it in. So, yeah. I wish I could afford, Burgess Taylor also said, I wish I could afford an external office space. I wish I had that sometimes too. All right, let's hear some questions. So I know that you guys have been asking some questions as I've been talking here. So if you did already, if you can, repost it. But I'm going to be scrolling back and kind of finding some of the questions here. Let's see. What are some of the biggest things that you guys struggle with whenever it comes to time management? Oh, I'm not seeing a lot of questions, actually. Is commenting on other channels helpful? How often do you reply to YouTube comments? Okay, that was two different questions from two different creators. So a little bit off topic, but I'll go ahead and do you recommend one-step resource for podcast info? Okay, so let me kind of go through these. Is commenting on other channels helpful? Only if it's probably not going to move the needle as much as you feel like it is. You'll maybe get a little bit of return on investment whenever it comes to commenting on other channels, but I've just seen way too many creators who do that, and they maybe get like a few subscribers or a few views, but then those subscribers aren't usually super loyal or super committed. You maybe find a few, but yeah, it doesn't usually bring a big return on investment. What's more impactful is you focusing on like bettering your thumbnails, bettering your video structure, really creating an engaging story, and maybe even changing the way that you speak to your audience. Like, all of those things can help you to connect with your audience even more rather than commenting on other channels. But there's not anything wrong with it as long as you're not being spammy. How do you reply to YouTube comments? How often do you reply to YouTube comments? Simply Annalisa said. How often? We try to respond as much as we can. We usually do it like as soon after we post a video. We'll try to go in and respond to like all the creators that are there like right away, because we want to make sure that we're answering their questions. But we do it honestly as much as we can. Yeah, that's just. So it's going to be different for everyone. I'm really trying to make time to work on getting a podcast out. Ooh, welcome to Chickenlandia is saying this. Do you recommend one-step resource for podcast info? Oh, for getting a podcast started? That I am not sure. I haven't actually looked into like getting podcasts started. I'm sure that I could find some stuff though, and maybe figure it out. This is helpful. I got caught up in commenting other channels. There's another question here. When do you schedule social media responses and interactions? Morning or evening? 4 Ninja Toads asked. I would say do it whenever there's a couple of things to consider. If you get a lot of interaction right away on your videos, then I would consider actually trying to schedule as close to like maybe right after you publish your videos. If you don't if you don't get a lot of interaction right away, then what I would consider is doing it whenever you feel is optimal for you to actually spend a good amount of focused time in there responding and interacting and stuff like that. If it's easier for you to do it in the morning, do it in the morning. If it's easier for you to do it in the evening, do it in the evening. Whatever is going to allow you to be the most active in your community, that's what you need to do. What do you suggest for more subscribers? For more subscribers, it's really all about connecting with your audience. So, what is the value? Like being really, really clear on the value that you are offering them, like making sure that that value is clear to them and that you don't have like too much of a mixed kind of content. So, yeah, you have to make sure that the value and the thing that they are coming and subscribing to your channel for is really, really clear. And then it usually comes down to thumbnails and video structure. Video structure is a really, really big thing. Like a lot of creators underestimate the power of having a high retention can have on their videos. So whenever it comes to like, because that's all those metrics, everything that we see within our YouTube analytics, that is a reflection of how people are or are not engaging with our content. And so that's why they're so important to pay attention to. So yeah, I would pay attention to what maybe are the low metrics within your analytics and focus accordingly. If your audience retention is low, focus on video structure and how you're connecting with your audience. If your click-through rate is not at a healthy amount, then I would focus on titles and thumbnails. See what other questions here. I block out time for social media comments. Not everyone gets a full reply. For some stuff, I'll just leave a like. Yeah, that's fine. And some comments don't require a full response. A lot of viewers even get excited just to see that you've liked their comment or hearted it or whatever. Yeah. True legendary advice. So I guess I'm going about it okay. Tech with Brit said look into Anchor for podcasting. Thank you, Tech with Brit. All right. Any other questions specifically about time management? And do any of you guys struggle with your workflow or getting your videos out or finding time to make videos or anything like that? Sometimes it's just like I don't ever want to undervalue, I guess, the amount of work that being a YouTube creator is, especially whenever you have kids and stuff like that. Like all that stuff, like it is a grind. It's a grind sometimes. And so that's why I want to get you guys into a more like stress-free zone so that you can feel confident in the things that are on your calendar, the things that are within your workflow and what you're focusing on and what you're not focusing on is super, super important in terms of giving you peace of mind and knowing that these things that you're focusing on are going to move the needle the most, like get you the subscribers that you're looking for, in terms of what you're focusing on within your editing time or your filming time and stuff like that. So it's super, super important to be able to get into that focus state and really have a clear idea of the things that you want to attack. So all right. Would you recommend to create a secondary channel in case you create a lot of content? Luis Fernandez Siles is asking. So yes, I hope I said that right, by the way. Would you recommend creating a second channel in case you create a lot of content? Depends on the kind of content that you create. If you are posting like 3 times a day or something like that, it's really going to depend on your audience and what they have come to expect and what's going to serve them the best. Because say you're a news channel, for example, and you should be reporting, like you should be staying on top of the news, and you have 3 different stories to report 5 days a week or 7 days a week or something, and all those news junkies want to stay on top of it, then that might make sense for a channel like that. But if you're a gaming channel or something and you're posting twice a day, 3 times a day, it might overwhelm your subscription feed a little bit for the viewers that are subscribed to you. And I have seen subscriber turnover because of that. So I wouldn't necessarily create a second channel if you're creating a lot of content. Because if it's within the same value, then it might, then you want to keep it on the same channel. But I would consider changing your upload schedule, but I'm not sure exactly what content. Chickenlandia said I have to go and prepare a talk about baby chicks. We'll catch the end of the podcast. All right, sounds good. Thanks for joining us, Chickenlandia, or Dahlia, I should say. Okay. Well, I realize I don't remember how Tim usually closes this. So this question is off topic. Oh, I'll answer this one last question before I head off here. This question is off topic, but I'm going to ask anyhow. How can you come up with more ideas for videos besides polling my audience or jumping on trends, if appropriate for my channel? So Wife Without Kids is asking how to come up with video topics. So this is where knowing your audience, like your target audience, is really, really important. Because the deeper understanding you have of who your ideal viewer is and all of their very specific pains, needs, struggles, desires, goals, and everything in between, the more topic ideas you will actually be able to come up with to help those pains, needs, desires, and goals. Because if you don't have a clear idea of who your audience is, then you may have like a general idea. Most of us creators have a general idea of who we're going after, who would kind of like our content and stuff like that. But a general idea is not enough. We need to have a really, really clear, specific idea of who our audience is and what they may be struggling with and why they're coming to our content and where our content meets them in their journey in their life, because all of those things will actually play a big role in how we are connecting with our viewers or not connecting with them. So what I would challenge you to do is to just go in and write out, what are all of their pains, needs, desires, goals, the struggles that they're facing in their life, and how your content meets those needs and desires and goals. Because that will automatically, once you start laying those out, then like, okay, they are struggling with finding more time, finding more time. So you're Wife Without Kids. So I'm a wife without kids too. So maybe they struggle with finding more time to create videos. I know that that's not probably what you're creating. But then, okay, they're stressed because they feel like they never have enough time in the day. So I can make a video topic on time management. Ta-da, that's how we're here. Because we know that creators struggle a lot with how to manage their time and how to get everything done and still create great content and feel good about the content that they're creating. And so this time management piece actually plays a big role in that. So in terms of topics, it really, those core topics come from knowing your audience on a deep level and knowing what they're going to respond best to and what their needs are. So I hope that helps. All right. Well, thank you all so much for your questions and for joining me on this topic. It was a lot of fun to do this without Tim. So Tim's over, in case you didn't hear at the beginning, Tim and my colleague Lennon are at Social Media Marketing World. And so I was joking earlier in our team meetings. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be Tim for a week because I'm going to take over the podcast and I'm running his Video Labs class tomorrow. So yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much. And we will see you next week on another episode of VCTV. So thank you guys so much for joining, and I'll see you later. Bye.